Hello there, blessings in Jesus. Hope this finds you well. I wanted to talk about Airbnb and how it's causing the rental crisis. Here's Airbnb's logo right here. It's even the world is wondering if this logo is obscene, and it's definitely probably an occultic symbol, but of fertility probably, which is a good indication of what this company is all about, which is a worldwide company a platform that allows people to rent out their rooms to strangers through their app. And basically it's being allowed to operate without regulation or taxes from the hospitality industry. Just like Uber and Lyft and other sharing economy companies, they're not considered part of that industry that they're competing against, which is creating an unfair advantage in the local markets that they're competing in, like Uber, and destroying the taxi industry, and pretty soon the renting cars will take out the rental industries, and then Airbnb taking out or competing unfairly against the hotel industries, which will probably affect the smaller hotels, that are in each communities more than the big corporate hotel chains. But what it's also doing is it's directly causing the rental crisis all across the country. And I know that personally I've noticed it in the last few years that rents have gone way up, and finding a place has gotten harder. So just the availability has gone down because, as you can imagine, when there's hundreds or thousands of hosts in one city, which there's 50,000 hosts in New York City alone. So you can imagine in smaller cities, the hundreds of them, if not thousands, in a place like Bend, Oregon, or Eugene. It says that there's 2,000 plus here in Bend, but doesn't really show you exactly how many there are in each place, or at least I can't figure it out. But even if there was just hundreds of rentals being taken out of a market of where there's 100,000 people, that's a significant amount of rentals. I mean, if now a place like Bend, Oregon, it's really hard actually to find a place to rent, and especially something affordable. So really, what this is affecting Airbnb is affecting the working class, the service class people. That's people that can't afford to buy a home, and so they have to rent, or they just prefer to rent. Well, and they just work jobs that are trades jobs or working class job, blue collar jobs, and they're not able to afford anymore just renting a place, or they can't even find a place to rent because they're all over here on Airbnb being used for short-term rentals. So that's one thing that it's causing, is the rents to go really, really high, and the not being able to find a place to rent. So that's causing a real problem for a certain segment of our population, which that segment, the powers to be, they don't care about that segment, and I think that this is part of their agenda to create a problem of the working poor in order to initiate more socialist policies, more government regulation. Basically, they create the problem, come up with a solution that gives them a control. And I believe that's what the sharing economy companies are doing. I wrote an article about Uber and how the nefarious agenda behind Uber and the sharing economy, specifically talking about Uber and Lyft and how they're destroying the taxi industry. And then the purpose of it, is for all these sharing economy companies, what I believe their purpose is that, the New World Order is giving them a free ride to compete against industries with an unfair advantage. And I believe that's to take out the middle class jobs that were created, like for taxi drivers, and also to get everybody more dependent upon online for their job, for their housing, and to create a problem of when you're dealing with where we live and how we live, that's a very important agenda, is to get us to where we have to live in small apartments in the cities, the urbanization, and the more that we have to pay for rent, the less money that we have to have freedom of thought. And we have to work all the time just to pay the rent. We don't have as much time to think about what the government's doing, and we're just trying to survive. So we're kind of getting funneled into this Agenda 21 type urbanization. But the sharing economy is basically turning us all into independent contractors that are dependent upon the online world for our income, which means that they have more control over our income. And as for Airbnb specifically, it makes a lot of sense. It's pretty easy to see that it's directly taking rentals that would be in the market for long-term rentals. It's taking those and making them into short-term rentals, which is making the rental availability goes way down, and then the prices go up. And this is also creating what they call gentrification, which is creating it's basically taking places to live away from native people and in that community, and also the working class, like I said before. And then it's creating basically a middle class lifestyle, or I would say upper middle class lifestyle, so that basically like tourists can come, and people that have money and are traveling around using these Airbnb and Uber, and they think it's really exciting and fun that they can just do everything on their phone. But what they don't understand is their actions are basically destroying communities. There's a lot of real estate operatives that are using Airbnb with multiple listings to bypass regulations, and who can blame them? They're just trying to make money. Here's an article on CityLab that talks about how Airbnb has raised the rents 1.4% in New York City in the last 3 years. So that's just one example. They're talking about how New York City, the Airbnb has raised the rents about $400 a month or per year. But I'm pretty sure that in smaller communities, Airbnb is going to be more destructive, or it's going to take away more long-term rentals that are in a community of say 20,000 people. There's only 10 places to rent, yet you go on Airbnb and there's 20 places, 30 places. Then that really affects the prices for those 10 places that are available. Or maybe there's only 5. There's just not a lot of places available, especially in the kind of smaller towns and cities, because of Airbnb, because it's just everywhere. here's a Guardian article that talks about its effects in Barcelona and how the natives of like Barcelona and these European cities are getting priced out of their apartments, so tourists can come and stay at their Airbnb. And what's the end game of this? The sharing economy right now, it seems pretty exciting. People can make money off of their phones, renting out their room or driving people around like they're a taxi driver. But once the taxi industry is destroyed, for instance, or the hotels industry, then and these sharing economies have a kind of a monopoly on the market. What do you think's going to happen then? You see, I mean, they're going to raise their prices, they're going to take more of a cut, and the service is going to get really bad, and it's not going to be regulated. Like, taxi driving, for instance, you're just going to have people making after all the expenses and everything, making $5 an hour. So you're not going to have quality professional drivers. You're going to have, lowlifes that are just trying to get laid and on drugs. So, for now it might be working somewhat, but once they have the majority of the market, and they can basically control the taxi jobs from the Uber app and stuff. They can basically become tyrants, and the service will go way down. So I think the end game of it is also just, like I said, to get everybody more dependent upon online for everything. And the sharing economy, even though it seems to be like a organic type of entrepreneurial movement, which I think it might be in part, but the nefarious powers to be are using it to further their agenda, their Agenda 21, or their urbanization, their destruction of the middle class, their creating a problem with the working poor, so they have to come in and come up with the solution. Whatever it suits their purpose to create agitation and also to destroy local communities by what they're doing in some of the, like San Francisco, is these real estate operatives are maybe coming in and taking an apartment building that has people that have lived there for decades. It's basically finding ways to get these people kicked out of their apartment complexes in these coveted areas of these cities, and they're taking these and then turning them into Airbnb hotels, and so they can make a lot more money, and then they don't have to deal with all these people's rights as they live there. And it's just a lot more regulations for people that are renting illegally, renting apartments and houses. Airbnb, you can bypass those, and you can also bypass the hotel taxes and regulations, basically getting a free ride for some reason. In a hyper-regulated society, they're allowing these sharing economy companies to go ahead and bypass regulations, and which is why I believe that it's for a purpose. They're using these, and the end game of their purposes are not good. So Airbnb, if you want to know why rents are high and you can't find a place to live, look no further than Airbnb being the culprit. So I would encourage you people out there that are listening to not use Airbnb and to not use Uber. Don't use these services. If you care about the communities and the people that it's the problems that it's causing, if you care about that, then don't use these services. Plus, they're creepy anyway. You're gonna use some stranger to come pick you up in their car, and you're gonna go live at somebody's place on Airbnb. It's creepy that people are allowing people to come in, stay in their house with everything there, and it's also creating that false sense of security. Like everything online is safe, but like we know that this world is full of crazy people, and yet you can go ahead and let just strangers come in and stay at your house. I mean, you can do that anyway on Craigslist, but Airbnb and Uber is just, the sharing economy is creating this kind of false sense of reality, false sense of security. It's got does a lot of different things for their agenda, but mostly it's negative in their. I mean, it seems to be a positive thing that people can make money renting out their room through this platform, but mostly it's to cause this rental crisis and to have these negative effects on society. So anyway, I hope this helped you put part of the puzzle piece together.